Rick, and Rick, you can get right to it. Thanks, buddy.
All right.
Okay. Rick White of 180BIZ is a business turnaround and growth expert helping shop owners go from struggling to stay open to being the go-to shop in their market. He has taught thousands to not only make more money than they ever thought possible, but also to have time to enjoy it with their families, a true rarity in our industry. We just want to thank you, Rick, for presenting to us today, and we look forward to your presentation. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope if you're eating, feel free. This is, we're going to give you a lot of information here. Sometimes people say it's kind of like getting a sip of water out of a fire hydrant. But I want to make sure that we give you some real value with this time together. And what we can do, as I said in the beginning, is we can finish this up, stop sharing, and then we can see everybody. I love when I can see people and we can talk back and forth, ask questions and such like that. So let's get started. This webinar really started up from a conversation that I had with a client, and he was so adverse. He had people that were working with him, and these people weren't doing what they should be doing, or they weren't doing it with the right mindset, intention, and he just absolutely froze up. And what I want to talk to you about today is exactly what we shared with him. So the first thing I want to do, let's see if I get my clicker working. Here we go. I want to help you by identifying the difference between conflict and confrontation, okay? There's a lot of people, see, we tend to use those two words interchangeably, but I'm telling you they're completely different. And one of my goals is by the end of this webinar, you are going to clearly understand what those differences are. Now, I want to make sure everybody can hear me okay. Can you see my screen? You can hear me? We're doing good, right? I can see some head shaking. Fantastic. Okay, the other thing I want to talk to you about as an objective is to help you understand where your stress is coming from in your business. And then I want to show you how you can get everything you want through the art of confrontation. Now, what's the difference between conflict and confrontation? Conflict is a clash. Think of it like this. It's a disagreement. A lot of times it's violent between two opposing groups or individuals. It's like this, right? If you listen to the Democrats or the Republicans for any length of time, that's conflict right there, right? But here's the thing. This doesn't work, okay? When you push, okay, it's a reaction. What's happening is you go into, or actually they go into, when you go into a conflict mode, the person that you're addressing or dressing down is going to go either into fight or flight mode. And I actually thought of another one today. It's freeze. Have you ever seen the deer in the headlight look? Where you're either going to get fight, flight, or freeze. And I need you to understand that when you are going after somebody and it's a conflict, this is completely a reaction. However, confrontation is different. Okay? Confrontation is the act of confronting or challenging another, especially face to face. Now, confrontation, it's awesome because it's a response. Confrontation should be a conversation. Confrontation should be a collaboration. All right? You see, fight or flight or freeze isn't the answer here. This isn't about attacking. This is about getting together and identifying something that you can make better. Why does it matter? The reality is when people come to me, when shop owners come to me, they're typically coming to me for one of three reasons. They're either coming to make more money, they're coming because they want more free time, they feel like they're a slave to their shop, or they absolutely are stressed out and they want less stress in their business. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Today, I'm going to give you some tools that are going to help you deal with and lower that stress. So if we're going to start talking about stress, where does stress come from? I think that's a really, really important question to ask, because if we understand where it's coming from, it helps us understand what we have to do to make it go away. And the simplest answer I can give you for stress is not getting what you want. It's really that simple, okay? We can talk about all the different things and the different factors, but ultimately it comes to you not getting what you want. Let's talk about the pandemic. Has that caused stress for anybody? You know, for some it may, for some maybe not so much. But the reality is the pandemic is causing you not to get what you want. If you're stressed out at the shop, there's something that you expect that isn't happening, and that is what's stressing you out. But where does that stress come from in your business? It comes from a lack of clarity. That's the first spot that it comes from. See, most shop owners, when I talk to them, then I ask them what they want from their business. Now, I listen to that question. So, Mr. Shop Owner or Mrs. Shop Owner, what do you want from your business? And the answer is, I don't want this, 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 and this. See, we're really great at saying what we don't want. We're not so good, not so clear about what it is what we do want. And here's the thing, if you haven't invested the time to determine a destination, how are you ever going to know you got there? Right? Because if you don't have a destination, it's like getting in a car and just driving around. What good does that do? And then the other thing is, if you don't know where you're going, if you don't know where you're headed, how can you ask people to help you? It doesn't work. The second second area that stress comes from is a lack of communication, effective communication. Here's the thing, if you don't know where you're going, how can you tell someone what you need? And what happens is you get so ramped up about the activity every day in the shop that you're barking out half-baked thoughts and orders, expecting people to read your mind. And I don't know about you, but unless it's your wife there, I mean, my wife can read my mind. She knows how. But she's the only one. So we've got to be really, really careful about this. We've got to make sure that we have effective communication. What else causes stress? Lack of buy-in. See, if you don't have your team bought in, if you have a bunch of players and not a team, you got a problem. If you're coming in as the owner and dictating what you want and telling them what to do and when to do it and how to do it and everything like that without getting input from them, you're not gonna get buy-in. Now, I don't know if you noticed, there's a little bit of gray hair here. I'm only 27. Yeah, not really. But see, what happens is when I grew up in this industry, and I did, my dad owned a shop, we didn't ask why, okay? If you asked why, you couldn't sit down for a week. So that was what I call the age of compliance. When my dad said jump, you said how high? Where? When? You didn't ask, why am I jumping, Dad? What are we trying to do? Where are we going, Dad? No. But today you got to understand the age of compliance is dead. What we're looking for instead is the age of commitment. Commitment where we have their head, their heart, and their hands. See, in the age of compliance, all I needed was hands. I didn't want them to think. I didn't want them to care. I just wanted them to do. But today, to be successful, that's not enough. See, when you're in compliance, you'll get people to do things out of fear, but they will only go as far as they have to not get noticed, to not get in trouble. But if you have commitment, when you have their head, their heart, their hands, when you have them engaged emotionally, mentally, and physically, you're on fire. This is where these people will not only do what's expected, but they will go that extra mile because they understand the destination. They understand where you're going as a team. They understand why it's important, how it serves the customer, the community, and the team as a whole. So you got to have that buy-in today. How do we do that? Most of our communication centers around what, when, and how. What we need to be doing is spending 95% of our communication with our team on why. That is the most important thing, because that's where we engage them. When they understand why, we've got their attention, they're gonna listen, they're gonna offer suggestions, and we're gonna end up with something so much better than what we had if it was just you as the owner, or as me as the owner, saying, hey, do this. So we've got to have buy-in, right? That lack of buy-in is where stress is coming from. Lack of buy-in, how many of you, just a show of hands, I can't see everybody, but a show of hands, how many feel like they have the same conversation every 2 or 3 days with the people you work with, right? Come on, it's a lack of buy-in. They just, you got to completely remind them constantly. What else does this? Oh, excuse me. Your stress comes from a lack of feedback. You know, a lot of shops, the only feedback a team member gets is a paycheck. And that's horrible. We need to give our team feedback on how they're doing every day. You should have goals for each position in your team, as well as what I call MLAP. And MLAP is short for minimum levels of acceptable performance. Don't just show people what a win looks like, show them what a loss looks like. And then work it so that they're in between those two, and set your minimum levels up so that you're getting at least a 10% net profit. When you can share that kind of communication and clarity with your team, what you do is you create the ruler that everybody can measure themselves by. Most of the time, the ruler is completely subjective and therefore emotional. So if you had a fight the night before with your significant other, everybody better watch out. And guess what? If your favorite football team, go Pats. If your favorite football team, I know it's the Seahawks up there, right? Seahawks, right? If their favorite team wins the night before, guess what? Somebody could set the place on fire and it's okay, man, we're doing okay, right? So we got to make sure that we're giving accurate, consistent feedback. And then the last thing that causes your stress is a lack of accountability. A lack of accountability. This is critical. We don't hold our people accountable to the agreements that we made with them. Or maybe we didn't make real clear agreements. That's something to think about, isn't it? You know, I had a shop owner call me up. He says, Rick, you got to talk me off the ledge. I got this new guy, man. If I want to go rip him apart. He's driving me nuts. And I said, well, what's the matter? He says, he's coming in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then he's getting dressed and he's making his coffee and he's going to the bathroom and he's talking to everybody. And it's like 8:45 before he's in his bay working. And I said, well, when you hired him, did you tell him he had to be on time? And he said, yes. And I said, how did you do that? He goes, come on, Rick. I said, you got to be on time. I said, but listen, on time means different things. I said, I'll bet you if you look at his punches, he was there at 8 o'clock every morning. He goes, yeah. I said, that was his definition of on time. What's yours? He says, I want him there at 7:45 so he can do all that stuff and be in the bay at 8 o'clock ready to turn wrenches. I said, that's the problem. You've got two different definitions going on here. So you got to make sure you've got clear, look, I'm going right back through, aren't I? Clarity, communication, but then it's holding them accountable to those agreements that we have. Once I've got the agreement in place, once it's clear, I've got to hold them accountable. And this is one of the biggest areas that I see shop owners falling short on right now. And you want to know why? It's because we got no pipeline. It's because we don't have technicians lined up or advisors lined up in a pipeline where if somebody doesn't play the game right, we can pull them off the game and put someone else in. But because we don't have anybody, we're telling ourselves lousy stories that there's no good help and there's no good techs out there and nobody's looking for work and they're all working someplace else and I can't pay or give them the benefits that other people are. That doesn't help you grow. You got to divorce your story and marry the truth. The truth is there are good people out there. The truth is you got to hold your people accountable. Look, we're all just big kids. One of the biggest reasons people hire me is because I hold them accountable. Because look, when you work for somebody, if they're doing their job right, they're going to hold you accountable to the expectations they've set. Well, when you own your own business, you've got to be able to what I call self-parent. If you can't self-parent yourself, you'll never get anywhere. And you're not going to get anywhere because you're not holding yourself accountable. Now, there's a really great thing. I'd like you to write this down for me if you would, please. I want you to, it's called the accountability mirror. That's what I call it, the accountability mirror. See, what happens is, look, I'm going to pick on Barry. Barry, I can see you for a minute. Can I pick on you for a sec? All right, cool. Okay, so Barry tells me, hey, Barry says, hey, Rick, I can build 10 hours a day, right? He like opens up his shirt and there's an S on there, right? And it doesn't stand for stupid. It stands for Superman, right? So Barry says, I can build 10 hours a day. Well, that's great. But here's what happens is all of a sudden, I don't hold him accountable to it. I don't give him feedback. I don't let him know how he's doing. And I'm doing that because I'm either afraid of losing somebody. I don't want to do that job myself. So what I feel like is my box of tolerance is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And what happens is we're all just big kids, right? We need that direction. We need the accountability. What happens is when you implement this, and I'm going to tell you, shop owners do this really afraid, but when you start to hold people accountable, you let them know you're going to start doing this, that you want more for them, your customer, and your team. All of a sudden, it really starts to become an amazing, amazing transformation. See, when your box of tolerance gets bigger and bigger, it's because your accountability is getting smaller and smaller. So the way to fix this is we got to make it more accountable. And as I do that, that squeezes the tolerance down. I tolerate less. This is so important. And here's something I'd like you to, the accountability mirror. Barry says I can build 10 hours a day. If Barry doesn't build 10 hours a day, I'm on him like white on rice. Barry, man, you said you're going to build 10 hours. That's the accountability mirror. That's one side of it. But here's the problem. When and this is psychologically proven, the problem is we hold other people accountable to their results. I want you to listen to this second part. We hold ourselves accountable to our intentions. See the difference? We hold them accountable to the result. But if, hey, I didn't get it done today, but Pam, I meant to. It's okay. There was a lot of other stuff that came up. It's okay. I'll do it tomorrow. We've got to keep ourselves accountable as well. We got to hold ourselves to a higher standard where we're going to be accountable to ourselves for our actions. You guys smelling what I'm stepping in here? Okay? This is really important. Now, how do we deal with all of this? It's easy. we're going to confront, we're going to confront the issues. We're not going to let them build up. You know what an issue is? How many of you have elephants in your shop right now? You know what I'm talking about, that thing in the corner that everybody tries to pretend isn't there. See, when you confront, what you do is you drag that elephant out into the middle of the floor and you take a gun and you shoot it. That's what you do. Because otherwise you need to understand that that elephant, it feeds on time and neglect. The more you ignore it, the bigger that elephant gets. And then you got a problem. I tell people all the time, listen right here. The best time to take care of Godzilla is when he's little, not when he's destroying the city. I got to deal with the issue when it's small, not when it's taken out a relationship or a business or a customer or a sale or whatever it is. So the first thing I got to do when I have to confront the issues is I got to know. That's the first part, is know. You got to know where you're going. You got to know the destination. Then look it, I'm going to tell you something. Your destination can be two different things, and it can be a combination. It's either going to be purpose or paycheck. That's your destination. It's going to be purpose or paycheck. And let me tell you something. If your destination is paycheck, all you're ever going to do is end up with a team of mercenaries. Okay? You got to have some purpose to what you're doing, to serving your community, to identifying a pain that your customers are going through at other locations, and you have decided to put the cape on and take up that cause, and that's what you're going to do. There's a shop, I think it's in Wisconsin, I don't remember the name of it, where the shop has been opened and they're taking all their proceeds and helping battered women. They're either fixing the cars for free or at cost, and retail people, when they're coming in, all the profits are going in to help the different communities that are helping battered women. I think that's amazing. I mean, if I had two shops, think about it for a second. I have two shops and they're about the same equally, you know, they're just as good. They treat people right. This one is just there to fix my car. This one takes a stand on battered women. And you know something? My sister went through that. Who am I going to pick for a shop? We need to be purpose driven. So you got to know where you're going. And it's uncomfortable. And this is, you know, we're not used to doing this. I mean, most of us, we come from a technical background. We're more comfortable with, heck, I'm comfortable with a set of points, right? I can do a set of points, or I can do DIS, or whatever the case is. But we got to know where we're going. And you got to know why it's important to you. Why does this matter? Like, I can tell you, 180BIZ as a company, our goal, our mission, our crusade is to make the world a better place, one shop at a time. That we as an industry have been subsidizing auto repair for so many years to our customers and just squeaking by and living to work instead of working to live. And I'm on a crusade to help shop owners create the life that they deserve. So that's important to me. That's important to my team. And every day we get up and we want to make a difference. Once you understand where you're going and why it's important to you, you got to know how everyone's going to help. You got to know how everybody fits in. See, most of us, what we do in the beginning is we treat our businesses and the people in them like a game of checkers, right? They all move the same. But anybody that's been in business for any length of time understands that's absolutely untrue. It's amazing how, you know, I had two technicians, Phil and Danny. Man, they were completely money driven. If I wanted them to do something a little extra, all I had to do is sprinkle a little money in front of them, and man, they were all over it. But then I had John over here, good tech. But once he hit a certain number of hours, he was done, right? He looks at what I call ROE, return on effort. He looked at it and said, yeah, I could get those extra 5 or 10 hours, but it wasn't worth the time to me. He didn't want the money. So what we did instead was I figured out that John loved to hunt and fish. So what I did was I sat down with John and said, John, if you hit these hours, how would you like a Monday or a Friday off next month with pay so you could have a long weekend, go hunting or fishing? All of a sudden, guess what? His sales went from $15,000 to $30,000 a month in 1 month. And it was because I dialed in how he could help, and I made it important to him. So you got to know where you're going. You got to know why it's important. You got to know how everyone's going to participate, and you got to know what your action plan is. And then once you know that, then the next step is you've got to communicate it. And guess what? You're going to communicate where you're going. You're going to communicate why it's important. You're going to communicate how everybody's going to help. And then you're going to go over your action plan. Notice that the action plan, the what, when, and how, is at the end. Does that make sense? Because I got to get the why in first.
I'm working, Kelly, okay? I'm working.
Okay. So now, once we communicate, now we've got to coach. And there's 2 ways to coach. We're going to coach individually, and we're going to coach one-on-one as a team. Listen, I can, as a big picture, I can talk to the whole team. But for individual performance, when I'm confronting, it's always done individually. Okay? Now, if we have something that's going on in the shop and it affects everybody, man, let's sit down and let's have a talk about it. You know, we had in the shop, I had 70 hours of unproductive time with the techs. And I sat down and I started digging in. And I was like, what the heck is this? And we found out that the techs were waiting about 45 minutes to get their first job because the advisor was so busy with customers. So we came up with a plan where the work was doled out the night before. The techs would come in and they had all their work all set up. They knew exactly which ones to do first. They grabbed their tickets and they went. I went from 73 hours of unproductive time to under 2 in 1 month. So together you can work as a team or you do it individually. But the whole idea of coaching is not you telling people what to do, but collaborating. You got to respect that they have insight, they have wisdom. And what you want to do is, I got to be honest with you, for some of us that haven't been out in the bays or on the front counter for a while, those people that are doing it every day, they have a fresher perspective than we do. And we want to honor that, respect it, and listen and tap into it. So you want to get their perspectives. Then you want to be able to understand from the outside in. You want to be able to see it through their eyes. You want to be able to see what they're going through their eyes. You know, one of the funniest things I've ever seen, I get the gift of seeing, is when somebody goes on vacation and the owner gets on the front counter, or the owner goes out into the shop, and invariably the next week I'm talking to the owner and they're like, holy crap, I forgot how busy that job is. I forgot how hard that job is. We've got to remember that. And here's the thing. I am a huge, huge proponent of servant leadership. They are not there for them to get you something. You are there to serve them. You are there to help them do their job to the very best of their ability, which is serve your customer. You are not the end goal here. The customer is, and you are the support system for them. And then if we coach and we collaborate and we still have a problem, now it's time to correct. Now it's time to correct. And listen, when we're going to correct people, it's going to be immediate and it's going to be specific. Okay? Every time, immediate and specific. I don't care how busy you are. I don't care what else you got on your plate. When you see something that needs correcting with another human being, you do it right now. If you wait 2 or 3 or 4 weeks because you got other stuff to do. You got to own it and be honest. You just don't want to have that conversation. You would rather not have that conversation. It's uncomfortable. I don't want to do it. What if he quits? What if this? What if this? And you end up doing nothing instead. And then 2 things are going to happen. Either you're going to have the conversation a month later, and guess what? You've been percolating in your head the whole time. It's fresh in your head. But guess what? They don't know what the heck you're talking about. It was 4 weeks ago. So they're going to feel like you blindsided them. That's the first thing that's going to happen, the first possibility. Second possibility is you don't say anything, but guess what? It's another layer inside. It's another layer inside. And then what's going to happen is something small is going to go on, and you are going to completely blow up. And it's not going to be that. It's going to be all of it coming out at one time. Is that fair to them? Now, think about outcomes. Every time I want to work with somebody, is it to piss them off or is it to make them better? Throw that in the chat. Is it to piss them off or make them better? I'm going to go in there. I'm going to give you a hard time. I'm doing this because I want to piss you off. Or do I want to make them better? Let's see what we got. We want to make them better. Jen, it's good to see you. So listen, you're absolutely right. We want to make them better. How do I do that? Because if I have a conflict with them, if I go out there and react and I just blow up, even if you don't blow up at them, you just blow up. You need to understand that they're personalizing that. They think it's all about them. We do that all the time. How many of you have gone home, seen your spouse or significant other in a bad mood and thought, oh man, what did I do wrong? Immediately, it might have nothing to do with you, but you're going to personalize it. That's what we do. They're going to do the same thing. So the best thing you can do is not blow up, right? See, because when we have conflict versus confrontation, see, conflict attacks the person. Confrontation, we're going to separate identity from issue, and we're going to attack the issue and hug the person. I need you to understand that. If your other, I don't want to say opponent, but the other person you're talking to feels like you're attacking them, do you think they're going to be open to listening? Do you think they're going to be, wow, that's really a great way to do it? That's right, Rick. You're absolutely right once again. No, we got to separate the person from the problem and deal with the problem. Conflict pushes people away. Confrontation brings them together because we become collaborative. Hey, I got this issue, right? I need your help. Write that down. 4 most powerful words you can say as a business owner to your team is, I need your help. You are not the answer person. You're not supposed to have all the answers. You're supposed to be the leader, the one that keeps the fire of purpose going and helping bring that team together. You're not supposed to have all the answers. Stop thinking that crap, right? Divorce the stories, marry the truth. Let's do that instead. What else? Conflict, it's you snapping and reacting emotionally. Whereas confrontation, you're stepping back and like, yeah, man, I'm pissed, but wait a minute, John's a good tech. Man, if I go out there and just start yelling, it's not going to make him better. It's going to push him away. He's going to be less engaged with my business. He's going to be maybe looking for more help, and he's a good tech, so we're looking to work somewhere else. I don't want that. I want to help him grow and get better. So I want to confront it. Conflict is typically postponed until there's a blow up. But guess what? With confrontation, I deal with it right now. And I need you to understand that conflict is focused on you. Please write that down. Conflict is focused on you. When you have conflict, you're reacting, and you're reacting to what somebody did to you. Does that make sense? You're doing so you're reacting to something you feel like they did to you. Again, you're personalizing it. Look, I don't care how stupid something seems like they did. If you would sit down with them and have an open conversation and ask them why they did what they did, I'm telling you, their actions made absolute complete sense to them. I think that's important to know. Okay? So, confrontation, we're focused on others. Confrontation is, hey, I have this issue. I want to help them get better. I care about them, and I'm going to make it happen. Now, when do you use confrontation? When do you use confrontation? You're going to use it immediately. Immediately. And whenever you see a downtick in performance, okay, or behavior, right? We can have people doing all the right stuff and doing it with completely the wrong mindset, intention, attention, focus, etc. Both have to be dealt with. And remember when I talked about clarity, we have to be clear about not only what they're going to do while they're there at your shop, we've got to be clear about who they should be bringing to your shop every day, right? What does the best version of them look like? Help them discover that and then recognize it, reward it, and reinforce it, okay? But the big thing I need you to do is stop making excuses. How many of you have seen a tech off and said, oh, he must have had a problem at home. He's got a new baby. Yeah, I'm sure that's what it is. See, we are going to make up stories and pretend it's not there, and we're going to hope and pray it gets better. Now, everybody should have hope and prayer in their life. It's not a business strategy, okay? I just got to be clear and 100 with you. So we got to stop making excuses. When you see somebody that's off, right? When you see somebody that's not there, that their performance or their behavior is down, I could go to Jen. I'm going to pick on you for a sec. So I might go to Jen and say, hey, Jen, listen, you know, usually you're really a rock star with our, hey, rock star, see that? You're really a rock star with our customers, but man, today you're just a little bit off. Is everything okay? And that starts a conversation. And guess why we want that? Because it's going to show that you're watching, right? It's going to show you noticed. It's going to show you care. It's going to show you're committed to them and to the company and to your customer. And it's going to show that you're honoring your agreed upon standard. So what does confrontation look like? It looks like this. See, we start with a conversation. We have an issue. We're going to take the emotion out of it. We're going to look at the issue. We got to stop telling ourselves that these are things people are doing to us, that they're trying to hurt us, that they're trying to make our lives more difficult. There isn't an employee in the world that gets up and says, hey, I wonder how I can screw him or her over today. Okay? I promise you there isn't. Most employee issues, I'm going to tell you straight up, are management issues. And it's going to be one of those 5 things: lack of clarity, lack of communication, and so on, right through accountability. So we're going to have a conversation. And the conversation is going to sound like, hey, I've got this issue, right? And then we're going to go to cooperation. This is where we're going to collaborate. And if we collaborate and it doesn't work and they know what we're supposed to be doing, then we go to correction, which is going to look like one of 2 things. We're either going to reprimand or we're going to have repercussions. And let's go into each one of these. So the conversation, listen, when it comes to conversations, you got to have courage. Please write that down. You got to be courageous to have conversations that are authentic, right? You got to be courageous to be fully present. You got to be courageous to have a vision, a purpose, and a passion, and willing to share that with whoever will listen to you. You've got to have courage to set goals and expectations with yourself, your team, and your company. You have to have courage to coach to excellence every day. That doesn't mean perfection. Perfection is an illusion created by the devil to rob men and women of their dreams. That's a Rickism. Perfection is an illusion created by the devil to rob men and women of their dreams. It's also the lowest standard you can actually set for yourself, because inside we know we can't ever be perfect. So what that does is gives us permission to do nothing. We don't want perfection. We want the best. Can you write that down for me? You don't want perfection. You want their best. And here's the really cool thing. Their best gets better every day. Right? Their best gets better every day. You've got to have this constant and never-ending improvement culture where everybody's going to grow and grow and grow. And you're going to do it. They're going to do it. And you are going to have fun serving your customers and getting them to leave with smiles on their face, driving away in safe vehicles. And lastly, you got to have the courage. Okay, my clicker stopped working. You got to have the courage to care enough to have the tough conversations with your team, because you care about them enough. So what does that conversation look like? That conversation looks like, number one, you're going to show the current performance or behavior. You just want to point it out. And you might have to give examples, and you may have to give more than one example. Because is it possible, we all have egos, we have identities, and if you're coming up against that identity, is it possible they could push back? Yes. So I got to be able to say, listen, I'm not attacking you, right? We're taking the person out. I love you, man. Let's talk about this. And let me give you the different examples of where that happened. So that's the first thing. Second thing we got to do is we got to discuss back and forth, because here's what you're going to get in the beginning. You're going to get what I call bed. You're going to get blame, excuses, and denial. When you start talking to them, you're going to get blame, excuses, and denial. So what you've got to do is you got to get them on the same page with you. Hey, boss, you're right. That is me. It's happening. And when we get that, how many of us feel like that's just nirvana, right? Like, holy crap, they got it. And here's the problem. We walk away because we think we're done. And I need you to write this down for me, please. Gaining agreement in a conversation is not the goal, it's the beginning. When you get them to agree with you, or you with them, that is not the end of the conversation. That is actually the beginning of the collaboration, right? So we're going to discuss what was previously agreed upon. We're going to get agreement that there's an issue and what that issue is. And again, this is not the end, it's the beginning, because now I want to get their insight, their thoughts about what's going on. Why is it going on? What do you think might, and I want you to write this down. I want you to write this down for me, please. You can either deposit, how do I want to say this? How many of you have ever been able to deposit excuses? You can't deposit excuses, right? Now, they're either going to sell you on what they can't do, or you're going to sell them on what you believe they can do. There's always a sale made, okay? So what you're going to do is get their insight, get their thoughts, see it through their eyes. And then you're going to discuss your thoughts, your observations. And then together, you're going to create a plan for improvement. Together. And it's going to include who's going to do what, how you're going to measure it, and then how and when you're going to provide feedback. Okay. What if I'm still not getting what I want? Well, the next step is correction. This is reprimand is the next step. And what's a reprimand? Look, it's someone that's been coached numerous times. They know what to do. They're just not doing it. right? Because if they don't know what to do, that's not a time to reprimand. It's a time to redirect. Hey, man, let me help you get back to that. Let me show you how to do it again, okay? And again, when we're going to reprimand, we're going to separate the problem from the person and deal with it that way. And here's Rick's rule. Always reprimand in private. Always reprimand in private. We want to praise in public. Why? Because we want all the other team members to know exactly what to do to get recognized. We want to show them how to do it, what to do. But when we're reprimanding, two things are going to happen if you reprimand in public. Number one, that person's either going to, it's no longer confrontation, it's conflict. Okay? And they're either going to push back or they're going to run away. But guess what? Guess what? What's going to happen is we're going to end up, the rest of the team's going to be going, holy crap, when's it my turn? When is he going to do this to me? It's not going to work. It's going to blow up. So how do we reprimand? Brenda, I'm going to be okay. I can stay a little later too if people would like. So the 1 minute reprimand model, 1 minute manager, baby. Ken Blanchard, smart guy. You're going to reprimand immediately, be specific. You're going to let them know how you feel and be upset. Then you're going to stop for a few seconds, 5, 10 seconds. It'll feel like a year and they're going to feel really uncomfortable. Then you're going to shake your hands, put your hand on the back. Come on, man. You're better than this, right? You're better than this. Reinforce the person, not the performance. Reinforce the values. You're here for a reason. You're a part of this team for a reason. Let's get back. Understand that a reprimand, when someone's off track, a reprimand is simply a nudge back on the path. Okay? But the most important thing I can tell you is when you've done the reprimand, it's over when it's over. When you're done reprimanding, it's never brought up again. You don't hold on to it. You don't bring it back up 5 years from now. Oh, wait, that's my wife. No. So you don't bring it back up again, okay? But what if you're still not getting what you want? Now it's time for repercussions. Honestly, this is when you tried to nudge them and they're not nudging. Now you're going to shoot some shots across the bow and warn them to let them know they're on their way out. Repercussions, write that down. Repercussions are steps to write this down, de-hiring. Not firing, de-hiring. Because if they were doing their jobs, would you fire them? No way. I'd keep them. They chose not to continue working here. So repercussions, not rehiring, de-hiring. But thank you, Jen. So repercussions are consequences set up in advance. Why? How many of us have at times have gotten into a situation, gone absolutely bonkers, and said something we later regretted? Right? I have, right? I'm not proud of it. I looked at my 3-year-old son a long time ago. He was doing something stupid, and I told him I was going to rip his arm off and beat him with the bloody end of it. That was my dad. I was channeling my father at that moment, but the look on my poor son's face, holy crap, he didn't even know what to do with that. So that was the only time I ever said that. But what we're going to do instead is set up consequences in advance, and we're going to share them with everybody, get agreement so everybody knows these are the steps. And you're going to document it while you're calm. Now, typically, repercussions for me look like this. First is a documented verbal warning. Second is a written warning. Third infraction is you get sent home for the day without pay. Fourth time it happens, we release you to the industry. And that's the one that scares us the most because we're not willing to do that. And we're not willing to do that because we don't have somebody else ready to go with us. Okay? So here's the thing. In conclusion, right? Like 2 of the most favorite words in a webinar. In conclusion, number 1, be aware of engagement levels. If somebody's normally very into work and loving what they do, and all of a sudden they're a little bit off, don't sweep it under the rug. Don't let it go. Talk to them. Deal with it. Show them you care, right? You got to be courageous and love your people. And I use the L word. You got to love them. If you don't love them, how many of you want a great culture? Culture is never going to be built until your team knows you got their back. You can't do that from a distance. You got to love your people. Third thing you're going to do is you're going to confront. Work for me. Why isn't it working? Hold on. Okay, we're just going to stop. I don't know why it's not working. The third thing you got to do is confront subpar performance or behavior immediately. That's the third step. And then the last thing is to keep your team focused on your destination, keep them excited, show them progress. That is what it's all about. Okay, is to show them progress. Progress equals happiness. Write that down. That's awesome. Achievement is not happiness. Progress is. How many of you have hit a really big goal and been disappointed afterwards? The goal feels good for a couple of days, couple of hours, couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden you're sitting there going, is that all there is? And that's a problem. Hey, there we go. It's working again. It's just like me. It goes off into Netherland every once in a while. My machine has Alzheimer's. So anyway, you got to keep them focused on the destination, show them that they're growing and you're going to be amazing. Okay? So I apologize. I know this was good. I hope you got some good stuff. I'm going to stop sharing so we can see everybody. Bam! Here we go. So feel free, unmute, ask questions, talk away. Jason, best webinar he thinks he ever attended. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. Any questions at all? I'm here to serve. Can't believe I did that good a job.
This is a big inward look, not as much of an outward look.
It is completely, Leon, excellent point. Conflict versus confrontation is completely about how I come to the table to deal with it. Right? It's about setting up guidelines in the beginning so that everybody knows what's expected of them and then holding them accountable and helping them grow. But when there's a problem, I'm there as a coach, not a corrections officer. Okay? That's the big thing. I'm there to help them because how many of us want our team to grow? I do, right? Well, how can we expect them to grow and not make mistakes? We've got to allow them to make mistakes. I don't have a problem with a mistake. I have a problem with a trend. When people trend and they constantly make the same mistake, that's a different issue. That's not a mistake. It's a choice. But when they make one mistake here and they never make that mistake again, yay. And then now here's a different mistake. Yay, it's growth. That's how we learn. We walk, we fall, we get up, we walk a little further. That's what it's all about. So for a lot of us, we hire people who want perfection. It's not possible. What I want to do is get really great people, point them in a direction, get them revved up, and then let go. Ooh, what happened to my fingers? Oh, wait, there they are. Okay.
Do we have any other questions for Rick?
I have a comment that is,
Okay.
I think because we all are emotionally created the same, we are just other people that are helping other people. So if we would follow these guidelines that Rick has shared, I think this would go a long way in helping us have profitable relationships, because the tide could be the other way around. And the one we want to address might be the one that should address us. Are we ready for that?
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
I hope they use the same tools that Rick shared with us, how to share with them.
If only that were the case, right?
Right.
Sometimes it's not, and that's okay. But here's the thing. I'm not asking you not to react. We're all going to react. What I want you to do is keep the reaction inside, build a little ledge that stops you from acting on the reacting. I think that makes sense. And then what I want you to do is then say, okay, what do I really want? So when you get upset, here's the easiest way to do this. Write this down. It's a real simple question. Here's your ledge. What's my outcome? Ask yourself that question. When you get mad, you want to go to deal with something, right? You're thinking, I'm going to rip his head off. I'm going to tear him up. Wait a minute. What's my outcome? As soon as you get outcome focused, it changes everything.
All right. Well, thanks, Rick. I really appreciate you being on. It's 2 o'clock now, and that's our time limit. So wanted to thank Rick for being on, and thank everyone for being on.
It's absolutely my pleasure.
Actually,
Thank
I
you,
think
everybody.
the hands for this is like this, right?
Yeah, you got to do it in front of you, or
Something
you
like
end up with
that.
no
Yeah, I learned
fingers.
that just the other day. So, and then you can't see Jennifer's hands when she puts them way back here. So, because they go away. There they go. They're gone. Yeah.
Oh,
No
my
hand.
hand.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
Is
so
it
thanks
for-
Rick for being on. And next week during our Lunch and Learn, Dave Parkhurst will be on. It's Get Found Online or Go Home. So thank you all. You all have a great afternoon, and thanks, Rick, again.
Thank you very much. Anybody has a question, feel free to reach out. Rick at 180biz.com. I'll help you out. Take care.
Okay, thanks, Rick.
Bye.
Bye-bye.